Good morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all today. Had I known that the 5 text messages that I sent Becky at the beginning of her journey would be so pivotal, I would have went through my phone and text messaged 5 to everybody, but maybe I'll do that afterwards. So my talk today is called What Gets Measured, Gets Changed, and you're going to get the Canadian version of the talk. But by way of introduction, my name is Michelle Lee. My carbon footprint is 23.1 tons. I'm born in Toronto, went to high school at Earl Hague, University of Waterloo, Toronto, and I got to spend around 8 years in San Francisco, where I worked for some of the biggest tech companies in the world, from Salesforce to DocuSign. I then lived in London and New York for a little bit, but now I am full circle back to Toronto, and I'm very proud of that. Since my tech days, I have started a few climate projects. Clever Carbon, we teach people about carbon footprint in a really hip and fun way. Women in Climate is a women's professional network, no climate experience necessary. And the Carbon Newbie Summit is an event that I host at SF and New York Climate Week. And as Sarah mentioned, since starting my career in climate, I've had some really fun experiences. I've been able to be a thought leader and contributor to a number of global media outlets. So I wanted to start with an audience poll. Okay? How familiar are you with carbon footprint? How many of you are the emoji to the right? You're just getting started. Okay, right. How many of you are emoji in the middle? Like, you know a little, but you could know more. Great. How many of you are the emoji to the left? You practically can write a book on carbon. Okay, nice. So we have a wide mix in the room, and I hope that the talk today is a fun one for everybody. So why do we do the work that we do at Clever Carbon? Today, when we talk about a single-use coffee cup or a flight, in the context of climate, we say those things are bad. Flying is bad, coffee cups are bad, and what that tells me is that we fundamentally lack the ability to understand and communicate our impact on the planet in an objective manner. What if we lived in a world where we could say, yeah, coffee cup, yeah, definitely under 20 grams of CO2 emissions. Flying for an hour, yeah, somewhere around 100, definitely under 150. Now we're no longer saying things are good or bad, right or wrong. We're using objective language and we're making informed decisions. At Clever Carbon, we imagine a carbon literate society. This is a society that understands where their biggest impact on the planet is. It understands that data is at the heart of everything, and they use data to make informed decisions. And as consumers, they are no different. Data, again, is at the heart of every decision. So the hypothesis is that the more carbon literate individuals that we have, the faster we will reduce our emissions. And it's not only about the individual actions, it's about understanding the enormity of our gigaton challenge and selecting the solutions that scale and move the needle. As we move towards a net zero society where we have net zero companies, cities, and countries, we also need leaders that are carbon literate, whether it's C-suites, policymakers, or heads of states. Now, how do we accomplish this incredible task at Clever Carbon? We create a lot of fun content, and I love this example of the coffee menu. It's available in different languages. You can download it for free, put it in your office, put it in your university, and it helps people get carbon curious. And at Clever Carbon, we also create a lot of different types of content, one of which is our Clever Carbon quiz. And we partner with large organizations to scale the mission, from sports teams and sports organizations like the NBA to sovereign funds like Mubadala. Because at the end of the day, what gets measured gets changed. So, is everyone like kind of warm in here? Because you're gonna be using your arms a little bit, because it's game time. And this is serious stuff, so I just wanna make sure everyone is ready, yeah? Everyone's good? Woo! All right. So, the average individual in Australia Their annual carbon footprint is around 14.3 tons. Now that's their consumption carbon footprint. That's not what their country emits from manufacturing and industrial processes. Individual carbon footprint, okay? Australia, 14.3. So what does everyone think the average carbon footprint of someone in the UK is? How many people say A? B? C? Nice. And D? Okay, so we're kind of all over the board, but everyone said C, and actually, the carbon footprint average in the UK is around 7.7. Now, what about Vietnam? How many people say A? B? C? D? Okay, we got a lot of Bs, and I have to commend you. You're a great audience. High arms, fantastic. And for those of you that said B, you are correct. And a fun fact, one flight from New York to Tokyo is 1.8 tons. One flight, okay? Now, this is always a fun time. My favorite question. What do you think the average carbon footprint in the US is? How many people say A? B? C? D? Okay, well, definitely a lot of hands in the B category. Luckily, it is not as high as you thought. It is around 17.0. And what's important is the US has a lot of people, so it does add up. Now, what do people think is the carbon footprint of someone in Canada? Any guesses out there? Want to shout out? Horrible. Oh. Okay, I heard like 29. I heard a couple of numbers out there. Which? 24, wow, okay. So the average carbon footprint in Canada is actually very similar to Australia. It's around 14.1. And just for context, here are some other countries, and there's a QR code. If you're curious about additional countries, you can find out the average carbon footprint there. Okay. Now, the current global average is around 6.3 tons, and the UN states that we need to get to 2.1 by 2030. That is a tall order. But to get us started, everyone in this room is going to be able to walk away with a Toronto Climate Week themed carbon footprint badge. So everyone take out your phones. It only takes a minute. You're going to find out your carbon footprint. And when it asks you about your flights, try not to include your business travel because that's a Scope 3 emission. You can also do it in French and English, or. I see everyone's heads down, so you're still working on the quiz, which is fantastic. Just a heads up, when you're done, you're gonna get a badge. You can press and hold it. It comes in 3 different colors, and I encourage you to share this with friends and family, to post it on social media, raise awareness for carbon literacy, carbon footprint, as well as Toronto Climate Week, okay? So as everyone is completing their quiz here, I am going to move on to the last part of my talk. And in order to take a step forward, I want to take a step back. Pre-industrial levels of carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere were 280 parts per million. During this time, we had the first stable climate, the last ice age had passed, and this was a time of incredible biodiversity on our planet. It was truly paradise on Earth. Now, we are no longer in paradise. Post-industrial activities have led to gigaton accumulation of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and in 2024, The average was 425 parts per million. For the last 800,000 years, we have always been below 300 parts per million. And experts say that if we surpass 450, we will surpass the 1.5 degrees Celsius agreement set by the Paris Agreement. And we need to be at or below 350 parts per million, with some experts saying we need to be below 300. Now, globally, we emit 35 to 40 gigatons of carbon dioxide annually, of which 20 are absorbed by our land and our ocean, but the remaining 20 accumulates in our atmosphere where it stays for hundreds of years. What is Canada's contribution to global emissions? In 2022, we emitted 502 megatons of CO2 emissions from a consumption standpoint. That represents just over 1% of global emissions. And we can see, for context here, compared to some of our other countries around the world, this is how we do in terms of total emissions and average carbon footprint. You can see while Canada is certainly not the highest, we do have one of the higher average carbon footprints among the developing countries. So, will we reach 280 parts per million again? That is the big question. And for everyone in this room, what we do in the next 30 years, 3 years, 3 months, 3 days, 3 hours, 3 minutes can make all the difference. I leave you with some famous last words: what gets measured gets changed.
That is absolutely wonderful. Thank you. One of those.
All right, so what are you measuring? What gets measured gets changed. Sarah, we had the fortune to go through and do the quiz, fill out the questionnaire before this. You scored a little above average on your climate consciousness. I see a little below average on how much you were pleased. Can you tell us what was the driver for you and what really got you?
Your contact info from
The big driver
thank you so much.
for my slightly below average carbon footprint would be my love of walking and biking. I think a lot of the co-benefits that come from it, which is how I think we also need to frame some of these climate solutions. I got fresh air, I got exercise, fastest way to get from point A to B.
I love it. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. We've had a good morning with everything happening. And one of the things I challenged everyone was about what is something you can do differently coming out of today. Right? So I'm going to ask you in a moment here about you personally, what you think has been something that you could do differently coming out of today. We said 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days. Right? Michelle was on top of that for us.